Admiral James Reed's footsteps echoed through the vast marble hall of the Galactic Council chambers. His face was red with anger, and his fists were clenched at his sides. Behind him, the 27 alien representatives of the Council watched in silence as humanity's ambassador stormed out. "This meeting is not finished," Admiral Reed called High Chancellor Orin, his gelatinous body pulsing with blue light. "Return to your seat at once." Reed stopped at the massive doorway and turned. His gray eyes swept across the chamber, taking in the varied forms of the galaxy's so-called advanced species. "No," he said simply. "Earth is finished here." The council chamber erupted in murmurs and clicks and whistles, the sounds of 27 species talking all at once. Advisor Trell, an insectoid being with compound eyes that reflected the room in hundreds of tiny mirrors, stepped forward. "Admiral, surely this is an overreaction. The Council has merely rejected your proposal to assist the Tauran world. Their agricultural problems are not our concern." Reed laughed, a harsh sound in the perfect acoustics of the chamber. "Not your concern. Millions will starve, and Earth has already proven our solution works." "Your solution is primitive," said Orin, his translucent body wobbling as he spoke. "The Council cannot endorse such methods." "Primitive." Reed's voice was dangerously quiet now. "For 300 years, you've called our ideas primitive. You've taxed our resources while giving us scraps of technology in return. You've blocked our attempts to help others. And still, you rely on us for tasks you consider beneath you." Orin waved a gelatinous appendage dismissively. "Humans are good workers, yes, but the Council makes decisions based on millions of years of collective wisdom. And yet you're too proud to admit when we're right." Reed straightened his uniform. "As of this moment, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council." A moment of shocked silence followed, broken by nervous laughter from several representatives. "You cannot withdraw," said a tall, thin alien with gray skin. "No species has ever left the Council." "Watch us," said Reed. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. "This is Admiral Reed. Execute Protocol Homecoming. Immediate effect." Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, humans received the same message. Engineers, maintenance workers, programmers, diplomats, doctors, and countless others looked up from their work. Some sighed with relief. Others felt a pang of sadness. But all began to pack. Back in the council chamber, Orin and the others were still arguing about the legal impossibility of withdrawal when an aide rushed in. "High Chancellor, the human embassy is being emptied. All their diplomatic staff are boarding ships." Now real concern flickered across alien faces. Trell's antennae quivered anxiously. "Admiral Reed," Trell said carefully, "let us discuss this reasonably. Humans have been valuable members of galactic society for centuries." "Valuable?" Reed shook his head. "No. We've been useful to you. There's a difference." He turned to leave again. "This is a childish tantrum," Orin called after him. "The galaxy will continue without you." Reed paused at the doorway. "We'll see." As the doors closed behind him, the council erupted into debate. Most agreed with Orin that humanity's departure was inconsequential. They were the youngest, least advanced species in the council, after all. Only Trell remained silent, her compound eyes reflecting the empty human seat. In her long life studying galactic politics, she had noticed something the others hadn't: how often seemingly minor human contributions prevented major problems. How systems designed by the advanced species somehow worked better when humans made small adjustments. As the council bickered, Trell wondered if they had just made the biggest mistake in their million-year history. And across the stars, the great human exodus began. 6 months after humanity's departure, the grand halls of the Galactic Council seemed unchanged. The 27-member species continued their debates and votes. Life went on. But Advisor Trell noticed small problems growing across Council worlds. On the trade hub of Xanthar Prime, the automated loading systems worked at only 60% capacity. The alien engineers couldn't understand why. The human maintenance workers had just followed simple checklists after all. In the great medical centers of Loria, patients waited longer for care. The sophisticated alien doctors blamed outdated equipment. Even on the High Chancellor's homeworld, power fluctuations became common. No one could explain why the grid had been stable when humans managed it but failed now. Small adjustments, Trell muttered as she reviewed the growing list of issues. They made small adjustments everywhere they went. Her private research chamber was filled with reports from across council space. On the wall, a map showed spreading red dots, each marking a system failure or unexpected problem, all in places where humans had worked. Her assistant, Zim, a young member of her species, entered with more data. The council food processing centers on Vega 3 are reporting 20% less output, Zim said, his antennae drooping with worry. Trell clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. What did the humans do there? Nothing important. They just operated the waste recycling systems. Trell's compound eyes focused on her assistant. Nothing important. Waste recycling feeds the entire food cycle. Before Zim could answer, Trell's communication panel lit up. High Chancellor Orin's image appeared, his gelatinous form rippling with annoyed pulses. Advisor Trell, the Central Council Eye is exhibiting errors. Your department is responsible for oversight. Trell's antennae stiffened. The AI was maintained by human programmers, Chancellor. As you recall, they departed 6 months ago. Then find new programmers. Orin snapped. These are simple systems. After Orin disappeared from the screen, Trell turned to Zim. Simple systems. That's what we always thought. On Earth, Admiral Reed stood at the window of his new office. The headquarters of the Independent Human Alliance overlooked the rebuilt cities of a planet that had, for centuries, sent its best minds to serve the Council. Director Lisa Morgan entered, bringing reports from across the formerly Council-dominated galaxy. The non-Council worlds of the Orion Cluster have accepted our offer of partnership, she said. Their representatives arrive next week. Reed nodded. And the Council? Morgan's expression hardened. No official contact. But we're getting thousands of private messages from Council worlds. Their systems are beginning to fail. As expected, Reed said. They never understood what we actually did for them. Morgan placed a tablet on Reed's desk. There's more. Our scientists have been analyzing the technology the Council shared with us over the centuries. And it's like they deliberately gave us incomplete information, pieces designed to keep us dependent on them. Morgan's voice held carefully controlled anger. They never intended us to be equals. Reed finally turned from the window. Then it's time to show them what humanity can do without their constraints. The Terran world that was facing famine. Morgan smiled slightly. Our agricultural teams arrived last month. Their crop yields have already increased 40%. Good. Reed looked at a large display showing ships departing Earth. Let the Council worry about their failing technology. We have new friends to make. Back in the Council chambers, Advisor Trell presented her findings to a special emergency session. The evidence suggests humans were serving as what I call universal adapters within our galactic society, she explained. Their ability to improvise solutions. Primitive solutions, interrupted High Chancellor Orin. Solutions that worked, Trell continued firmly, appears to have been crucial to the functioning of many of our systems. The Council members shifted uncomfortably. Are you suggesting, asked the representative from Altair, that we need humans? Trell's compound eyes swept across the chamber. I am suggesting that we failed to recognize their true value. And now we are experiencing the consequences. High Chancellor Orin pulsed angrily. This is merely a period of adjustment. The Council has survived for 1,000,000 years. We will not be brought low by the departure of the youngest, least advanced species. As if responding to his words, the lights in the Grand Chamber flickered and went out. 1 year after humanity's exit, the Galactic Council faced a crisis they could no longer ignore. In the giant shipyards of Proxima Station, 3 massive council vessels drifted half-finished. The alien engineers stared at the incomplete wiring systems with confusion. "But we followed the human technician's notes exactly," said Chief Engineer Drav, his scaled fingers tracing the diagrams. "Why doesn't it work?" Across council space, similar scenes played out. The advanced medical eye on Loria began misdiagnosing patients. The weather control systems on agricultural worlds produced too much rain or none at all. The automated defense networks protecting council borders began seeing threats where none existed. And in the great library of Altair, 2 council species that had peacefully shared the system for 10,000 years now argued over resource rights, with no human diplomats to find compromise. On the council capital world, Advisor Trell presented her completed report to a closed session of the council leaders. "The cascade effect is accelerating," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of her news. "Each system failure causes new failures in connected systems." High Chancellor Orin's gelatinous form darkened with stress. "You've had a year to fix these problems. Advisor, why haven't your teams succeeded?" Trell's compound eyes reflected the concerned faces of the other council members. "Because we fundamentally misunderstood what humans were doing." She activated a holographic display showing a complex network of interconnected systems. "We believe humans were simply following our instructions, using our superior technology. The truth is different." She highlighted thousands of points in the network. At each of these junctions, humans made what they called workarounds or fixes. They adapted our rigid systems to function together. The representative from Altair leaned forward. "But our systems are perfectly designed." "Perfectly designed in isolation," Trell corrected. "But when connected, they created conflicts only humans seemed able to resolve. They think differently." "This is absurd," Orin interrupted. "You suggest that primitive humans were secretly holding our civilization together." Trell's antennae straightened with determination. "Not secretly. We just refused to see it." On Earth, Admiral Reed met with the representatives of 15 former non-council worlds, now part of the Independent Human Alliance. "The trade routes through the Orion cluster are now fully operational," said the reptilian delegate from Terran. "Thanks to human navigators, shipping time has decreased by 40%. Director Morgan nodded with satisfaction. "And the agricultural improvements?" "Beyond our expectations," the Terran delegate replied. "Your simple crop rotation methods have ended food shortages on all our worlds." As the meeting continued, an aide handed Reed a message. His face remained neutral as he read it. "Something wrong, Admiral?" asked Morgan when the delegates had departed. Reed handed her the message. "Advisor Trell has contacted us privately. The Council is facing systemic collapse and officially requests our assistance." Morgan's eyes widened. "After just 1 year. We expected it would take at least 3. We underestimated how dependent they have become on us," Reed said. "The question is, do we help them?" Morgan frowned. "They exploited us for centuries, gave us broken technology, treated us as servants." "Yes," Reed agreed. "But are we better than them if we let billions suffer?" Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. On the main screen, they watched a Council defense station open fire on a civilian transport ship. "The defense AI has completely malfunctioned," the officer reported, "without human operators to interpret the threat assessment protocols." Reed and Morgan exchanged grim looks. "It's happening faster than anyone predicted," Reed said quietly. "The cascade effect has begun." While Reed considered humanity's response, across the galaxy, the sophisticated civilization of the Galactic Council continued to unravel. Systems that had functioned perfectly for thousands of years before humans arrived now failed without them. The great unraveling had begun, and not even Advisor Trell had predicted how quickly it would spread. 2 years after humanity's departure, the Galactic Council faced not one crisis but many. The great transportation hubs that connected thousands of worlds stood nearly empty. Ships sat idle without the human technicians who had kept them running. Food shortages spread across dozens of worlds. And for the first time in 300 years, war had broken out. The formerly peaceful species of Rigel and Deneb now fought over a disputed border, with no human mediators to find middle ground. On the council capital, Advisor Trell moved through darkened hallways. Power was now rationed even in the most important government buildings. She entered a secret meeting room where representatives from 6 council species waited. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I believe we all understand the situation." "The council is failing," said the delegate from Ta City, his luminous skin dimmed with worry. "High Chancellor Oren still refuses to acknowledge the truth." "Because the truth is embarrassing," said another delegate. "We, the advanced species of the galaxy, cannot function without humans." Trell placed a data crystal on the table. "I've compiled evidence of deliberate suppression. For centuries, the Council has undermined human advancement while benefiting from their abilities." The delegates exchanged troubled looks. "What do you propose?" asked the Ta City representative. "We must approach Earth directly," Trell said, "without Oren's knowledge." In Earth's orbital shipyard, Admiral Reed watched the construction of new vessels. Unlike the ornate council ships, these were practical, efficient designs, human thinking made real. Director Morgan joined him at the viewport. "The Terran delegation reports their agricultural output has doubled again using our methods. They're now exporting food to 3 other systems." Reed nodded. "And the defense situation?" "Our rapid response teams prevented another AI malfunction in the Protean sector. We saved a council colony world, though they don't know it was us." Reed's face showed the weight of his decisions. "We're helping where we can without officially responding to Trell's request." "The Alliance worlds support this approach," Morgan said. "They remember council oppression too." A communication officer interrupted with an urgent message. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple council ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Ta City. Weapons are active." On the main screen, they watched as council warships exchanged fire. "Civil war," Reed said quietly. "This wasn't supposed to happen for another year at least." Morgan's face hardened. "The unraveling is accelerating." In his grand chamber, High Chancellor Oren received increasingly desperate reports. "The medical systems on 12 worlds have completely failed," said an aide. "The food distribution network is operating at 30% capacity. And now, Ta City and its allies have declared independence from the Council." "Traitors." Oren's gelatinous form pulsed with dark colors. "They've been talking to the humans, haven't they?" "We don't know, Chancellor." "Find Advisor Trell," Oren commanded. "She's behind this." But Trell was already gone, traveling secretly on a small ship toward Earth. With her, she carried the evidence of the Council's true history with humanity. On a once luxurious passenger liner now serving as a refugee ship, thousands of beings from different Council worlds crowded together. A child from Altair looked out at the stars. "Where are we going?" she asked her parent. "To the human worlds," came the reply. "They're accepting refugees." "But I thought humans were primitive." The parent's many eyes blinked sadly. "That's what we were told." It wasn't true. As the refugee ship approached Earth's solar system, they passed dozens of well-organized human vessels distributing supplies and providing aid to former Council worlds. While the Great Galactic Council collapsed, humanity had built something new, something that worked. And now, as Advisor Trell's ship also approached Earth, she carried secrets that would explain why the Council had feared humanity enough to hold them back for centuries. The great unraveling continued, and soon the truth would emerge. Advisor Trell's small ship landed at Earth's main spaceport under heavy guard. Admiral Reed and Director Morgan waited as the insectoid alien emerged, carrying a single data crystal. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," Trell said, her compound eyes reflecting the human leaders before her. "Your message mentioned evidence," Reed said, his face showing no emotion. "Evidence of deliberate actions against humanity." Trell's antennae drooped slightly. Yes, what I found in the oldest council archives. It changes everything. In a secure conference room, Trell projected ancient records onto the wall. The images showed early human colony ships and the first contact with council species. The council founders saw something in humans that frightened them, Trell explained. Your adaptability, your problem solving, your creativity. Morgan leaned forward. Are you saying they feared us from the beginning? Yes. Most species develop along predictable paths. Humans don't. Trell changed the display to show genetic sequences. The council secretly introduced subtle changes to your early colonies. Nothing deadly, just changes to slow your development and keep you dependent on council technology. Reed's face darkened with anger. They sabotaged us. While using us, Morgan added bitterly. Trell nodded. The great irony is that even while holding you back, they became dependent on your unique abilities. Humans see solutions where other species see only problems. Who authorized this? Reed demanded. The founding members, led by Orin's ancestors, Trell said. The current High Chancellor knows the truth and has hidden it for decades. Across the stars on the council capital, Orin faced growing unrest. Council security forces struggled to maintain order as citizens demanded answers about the failing systems. In his private chamber, Orin reviewed reports of Trell's disappearance. She's gone to the humans, he said to his most trusted advisors. With the archives. What will you do, Chancellor? Asked one. Orin's gelatinous form darkened. Prepare the remaining fleet. If we cannot function without humans, we will force their return. But, Chancellor, many council worlds are already seeking independent alliances with Earth. Traitors, all of them. Orin pulsed angrily. 1,000,000 years of council rule will not end because of primitive humans. On Earth, Director Morgan sat alone in her office, studying the genetic data Trell had brought. Her team of scientists had confirmed the findings, subtle but deliberate tampering with early human colonists. A message from Reed appeared on her screen. Morgan, Trell's coalition representatives have arrived from 6 council worlds. They're requesting formal alliance talks. She sighed heavily. The council is falling apart, Reed. It was built on lies, he replied. What are we going to do about Orin's fleet? Our defenses are ready, Morgan said. But I've been thinking about something bigger. A new framework for galactic cooperation, one based on actual exchange, not exploitation. Will former council worlds accept human leadership? Reed asked. Morgan shook her head. Not leadership. Partnership. We need each other. That's what the council never understood. On a refugee ship approaching Earth's solar system, 2 children, 1 human, 1 from Altair, played together, finding ways to communicate despite different languages. An Altarian observer watched with interest. Look how quickly they adapt to each other. A human aid worker nodded. Children don't know they're supposed to be different. Perhaps that is the lesson we adults must learn, the Altarian said thoughtfully. As news of the Council's genetic tampering spread across human worlds and allied systems, anger grew. Many called for cutting off all aid to Council refugees. In a public address, Admiral Reed faced this anger directly. We have learned that the Council deliberately held humanity back, he said to billions of viewers across many worlds. But we will not respond with their tactics. We are better than that. He gestured to Advisor Trell, who stood beside him. Together with those who recognize past wrongs, we will build something new. Not a council that rules, but a union that cooperates. As Reed spoke, emergency alerts flashed. Council warships had been detected entering the outer solar system. The revelation of truth had come, and with it, the final confrontation with those who had oppressed humanity for centuries. High Chancellor Orin's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 20 massive Council warships, their sleek designs hiding weapons capable of destroying entire continents. Broadcast on all frequencies, Orin commanded from the flagship's control chamber. His gelatinous form pulsed with dark colors of determination and anger. On Earth and across human colonies, screens lit up with Orin's image. People of Earth, your rebellion against the Galactic Council ends now. Return your workers, engineers, and technicians to Council worlds immediately. Surrender Advisor Trell and all traitors who have conspired with you. In Earth's Defense Command Center, Admiral Reed watched the transmission with Director Morgan and Advisor Trell. 20 ships, Morgan said. The most advanced warships in the galaxy. Reed nodded grimly. And yet they're barely functioning. Look at the power fluctuations in their shields. Trell's compound eyes studied the tactical display. Without human maintenance teams, those ships are operating at maybe 60% capacity. But still dangerous, Reed said. Orin's voice continued. You have 6 hours to comply, or we will demonstrate our power on your outer colonies. The transmission ended. Reed turned to his officers. Deploy the defense fleet. Activate Home Shield Protocol. As officers rushed to carry out orders, Morgan looked troubled. The Council doesn't know what we've been building while they've been falling apart. Aboard his flagship, Orin received reports from his commanders. Chancellor, we're detecting hundreds of small ships launching from Earth and its moon. Orin's form rippled with amusement. Their primitive vessels are no match for Council technology. But sir, our targeting systems are showing errors, and shield generators on 3 ships have failed completely. Orin's amusement faded. How is this possible? These ships were perfect when humans maintained them. His tactical officer's voice was tight with worry. Sir, the human ships are not what we expected. On the main screen, Orin watched as the Earth fleet approached. Instead of the outdated vessels he expected, these ships were small, fast, and moved in patterns his computers couldn't predict. Fire main weapons, Orin commanded. The massive Council ships launched energy beams that could shatter planets, but the human vessels darted between them with impossible agility. And then the human fleet struck back. In Earth's command center, Reed watched as his ships executed the battle plan. The Council always built their weapons to be powerful but predictable, he explained to Trell. They never valued adaptability. On the tactical display, human ships targeted specific weaknesses in the Council vessels, weaknesses that only human maintenance crews would know existed. We're not destroying their ships, Morgan explained, just disabling them. Trell watched in amazement as the supposedly inferior human fleet systematically neutralized the Council's most powerful weapon systems and engines. Within an hour, 19 Council ships floated powerless in space. Only Orin's flagship continued to fight, its weapons firing wildly. Final phase, Reed ordered. A single human ship approached Orin's flagship. Rather than attacking, it transmitted data directly into the Council vessel's computers. The full archives Trell had brought to Earth, broadcast for every Council crew member to see. On Orin's bridge, chaos erupted as crew members saw the evidence of centuries of deception. Is this true? Demanded a senior officer, facing Orin. Did we deliberately sabotage human development? Orin's form pulsed with rage. It was necessary. Look what they've done without our control. They've built better ships than ours, another officer observed, while we can barely keep our own technology working. As his crew turned against him, Orin faced the truth at last. The mighty Galactic Council, ruler of thousands of worlds for 1,000,000 years, had finally collapsed. Not through war or natural disaster, but because they had driven away the one species whose unique abilities had unknowingly held their civilization together. Outside, the human fleet surrounded the powerless Council ships, not as conquerors, but as rescuers. The collapse was complete, and in its ruins, something new would rise. 5 years after humanity left the Galactic Council, representatives from 300 worlds gathered in the Great Hall of the new Cooperative Galactic Union headquarters on Earth. The massive room buzzed with the sounds of dozens of species talking, a mix of voices that would have been unimaginable in the old Council chambers. Admiral Reed, now older but standing tall, approached the central platform with Advisor Trell at his side. The room fell silent. 5 years ago, Reed began, we faced a broken system that had lasted for 1,000,000 years. Today, we celebrate something new. He gestured to the assembled delegates, former council members sitting beside species that had never been allowed council membership. The cooperative Galactic Union is built on different principles than the council. Not control, but cooperation. Not secrecy, but openness. Not fear of differences, but celebration of them. Trell stepped forward, her compound eyes reflecting the diverse crowd. As a former council advisor, I witnessed firsthand how fear of humanity's different way of thinking led to centuries of suppression. That fear ultimately destroyed the council. In the back of the hall, a small group of observers watched with bitter expressions. High Chancellor Orin and his loyalists had refused to join the new union. They lived now on isolated worlds, clinging to failing technology they could no longer maintain. Director Morgan joined Reed and Trell at the platform. The three of them, human, insectoid, and representatives of a dozen other species, activated a holographic display showing the new union's achievements. Trade routes that the council had struggled to maintain now operated at full capacity. Agricultural systems using simple human techniques combined with advanced alien technology produced food surpluses where once there had been shortages. Medical centers used the best of all worlds' knowledge. Our greatest strength, Morgan said, is what the council saw as a weakness, our differences. From the audience, a young delegate from Altair stood. My people once believed humans were primitive because they relied on simple solutions. Now we understand that seeing simple solutions to complex problems is a rare gift. An engineer from Ta City joined him. The council designed perfect technologies that only worked in perfect conditions. Humans taught us to build systems that can adapt when conditions aren't perfect. Throughout the hall, delegates shared similar stories of human ingenuity combined with alien knowledge creating something better than either could alone. Reed smiled at the sight. This is the true lesson. No species has all the answers. Together, we find better solutions than any of us could find alone. Outside the hall, a new generation of ships prepared for launch. Unlike the rigid designs of the old council or the purely practical human vessels, these combined the best elements of all species thinking. On a view screen, children from a dozen worlds could be seen in a new school, learning from each other's cultures and ways of thinking. The youngest generation was growing up without the prejudices of the past. As the formal ceremony concluded, Reed, Morgan, and Trell watched the delegates mingling freely, former enemies now partners. Do you think the council could have survived if they had treated humans as equals from the beginning? Trell asked. Reed considered this. Perhaps, but sometimes old systems must collapse before new ones can grow. Morgan nodded. The council saw different ways of thinking as threats. We see them as opportunities. As night fell on Earth, the lights of ships from hundreds of worlds filled the sky like stars. The galaxy had changed forever because humanity had walked away, and then returned not as servants, but as partners. The new foundation was built, and this time it was built to last.